Hey, Naperville. This week we're going to talk about the big question on everybody's minds and is what do I do if I sell my house and I don't have a home to buy? I know it's a big fear when I talk to buyers, sellers. It's a scary world out there with low inventory, and we're going to solve that problem for you here today. All that and more up next on the Naperville Real Estate Weekly Market Update.
Owning a home in Naperville is about living a great life today and investing in a secure tomorrow. On this show, we're going to give you the tools to do both. Welcome to the Naperville Real Estate Weekly Market Update.
Hey, welcome back to the Naperville Real Estate Weekly Market Update. I'm Chris Grano from Keller Williams. Alongside me is Todd Gosden from Compass Mortgage, and we are your hosts. Todd, how are you this fine day?
I am fine. It's Friday. I can't believe it's almost Labor Day. It's crazy.
Oh, I know.
Like, Christmas is right around the corner. Can you believe
Don't say that. Don't say that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really flying by, and now like we talked last week, it opens up a whole new set of conversations. Everybody always has questions around seasonality and things like that. So we're going to get into that. But as I talked about at the top of the show, we're going to talk about addressing a fear that we've addressed a couple times here on the show this year, but it's worth repeating. And that's a lot of people are worried, well, what if I sell my house and I can't find something to buy? And that is a conversation I literally have with every single seller, whether they're getting ready to sell now. I have people I'm talking to about next year. Well, Chris, what if inventory doesn't pick up? And what if there's nothing for me to buy? And there's lots of options for people in that scenario. So we'll talk through that. We call it sell and stay. We'll talk through that scenario today. But let's dive into the numbers first. So this past week in Naperville, we had 80 new listings. Some numbers down a little bit from last week. We had 62 under contract. That's also down a little bit from last week, and then 80 closings. So, Todd, this is kind of a repeat of 2 weeks ago. Okay. We had like a little lift last week. I'm not sure what that was, but as you talked about on the podcast last week, we shouldn't be surprised that there might be a little bit of a dip in activity because it always happens this time of year. Mm-hmm. And that's the very just simple function of people going back to school, right?
Not only, going back. Well, here we're still dealing with a little bit of a something going on in a pandemic.
Oh yeah, called a pandemic.
Yeah. We still have people going back to college from the first week of August all the way through my daughter leaving for college tomorrow. I mean, so the reality is people have things going on right now, and it's typically been that way for as long as I can remember. And it really doesn't set a precedent to say that the market's cooling off or getting hot. It just says people are taking a break because they got more important things to do with family right now. And that's just what the most important thing is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm so glad you said that too. Gosh, people always ask, when should I buy? When should I sell? Well, do it when it's right for your family.
Absolutely.
Probably right in the middle of going back to school or maybe just coming off of vacation. There's any number of things that might mean it's not a great time. I always love when buyers walk into my office and I see a young lady who's likely 7, 8, 9 months pregnant. And I say, well, you got something pretty important coming here soon, so weigh that out. There's a lot of things that maybe that definitely come before buying or selling a house. And you're right, it's just a pause. Seasonality in Chicagoland is a thing.
Yep.
There are probably some markets throughout the country that experience maybe less seasonality because their weather patterns are different or whatever, but certainly back to school is going to be a universal thing. So no worries. I wouldn't have anybody freaking out about a little dip here. I think in the next few weeks, as we get through early September, we're going to see things kind of smooth back out. And then, the numbers do taper off a little bit as we get towards the end of the year, but we talked about that last week. There's still very serious buyers for you folks who are, thinking about listing.
Totally.
So let's take a look at inventory as far as the pace of the market. And that's kind of where it was last week, a little bit dip in under 500 again. We're at 1.87 month supply, 500 to 750, or we're at 1.1. That's the lowest number I've seen in that category. And then 750 and above is 2.67, and then above a million is 4 months of inventory. So still low inventory, but again, we talked about doing things the right way. And that actually dovetails right into our topic for today, because I can guarantee you, of the homes that are out there, the people who are getting them are doing things the right way. They're working with a high quality experienced lender and a high quality experienced real estate agent. And there's right ways and wrong ways to approach this. I have a lot of sellers that I'll talk to and they'll say, yeah, we just want to go find a home first. And I say, great, that's ideal, right? If you can find the home first, take your time. What's your finances look like? Can you support 2 mortgages at once? Or do you have cash that you're going to pay for with the new one? And if the answer to that is no, well, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Because you and I know if we try to go out into a competitive market like this with a home sale contingency, meaning, for those of you who don't know these terms, meaning you have to sell your house and it's not even yet on the market, and you have to do that in order to buy the next one, gosh, you are not going to win offers most of the time, And so what we've got to do is set you up for success. And there's a couple ways to do that. So we talk about sell and stay, and that's what most of my sellers have done this year. And Todd, you know that I'm one of those sellers that's doing it because you're helping me right now. We did the same thing. So, the idea is you get your home ready, you get it all prepped, ready to go, you list it, you try to bring in multiple offers through a combination of great pricing, great marketing. You need to talk to your agent about how to achieve this. This is not just willy-nilly. There's a plan involved in this. And then once you get the home under contract, you negotiate as a part of that negotiation to lease back your home so that you have time to go out there and shop. This is what so many of my sellers and buyers have done successfully this year. It gives you breathing room so you don't feel like you're up against the wall. And if you close on your sale, then you may even have now time where you're not even a contingent buyer at all, right?
Yep, totally.
Todd's company, the title company sends you a big fat check, or a big wire amount in your bank account, and now you're essentially a renter with a bunch of money, or at the very least, ready to go, get a mortgage and have nothing holding you back as far as a sale. So there's a lot of ways to do it. That's the number one way. And Todd, have you've seen some buyers that you've worked with have success in that this year?
Yeah, I think that there's always an opportunity, and I think there's always going to be a fear, unless the money is a non-issue for you, of carrying 2 houses or potentially 3 mortgages as if you do a bridge loan, right? And I think that the reality is, in part, that's why we're creating a little bit of an inventory shortage, right? Is because you have a huge influx of buyers and they're maybe somewhat cautiously moving forward because they don't want to have 2 or 3 mortgages at the same time, because the question is, well, what if this happens, right? What if that happens? Well, yeah, life is full of what ifs. We deal with them all day long, every day. And all you can do is what's right for your family, but also understand that by going down that road, it will create a little bit of hesitation potentially with a seller willing to sell you the home over someone who doesn't have a home to sell. It's right. Just a reality in life, right? That's the way real estate's been for as long as I can remember. And so the reality is maybe looking at it creatively, right? Maybe renting back while you buy there's all kinds of options that we can look into. But I think that unless you explore the options, you'll never know, right? Unless you have those opportunities to understand the different ways of doing it, then how do you know whether you can or can't?
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny that some folks don't even know that options like that exist. Right. Or things like you mentioned, a bridge loan, things like that exist. I think there's a lot of fear out there, and the only way we can defeat fear is information. Right. And so you've got to have conversations with professionals like yourself and myself and figure out, like you talked last week, Todd, about how financing is so individual, right? We talked about FHA financing, and is FHA financing right for you? And the answer to that could be from 100 different angles. And it's the same answer here. So I can't say that there's a one size fits all solution for every seller and buyer out there, but I can tell you there's a solution.
Right.
And we just got to have a conversation about it. And so, sell and stay, we talk about, that's one way of doing it. Certainly having some sort of a backup plan if you've got family in the area. Short-term rentals are, possible as well. So there's a lot of options out there to people. And I'm trying to spread this message as much as I can, because you're right. Part of this, what's causing this inventory shortage is this fear. And I think if all we ever do is say, well, there's not a lot of houses, not a lot of houses, not a lot of houses, we just keep, stoking the flames of that fear. And people go, well, I'm just going to sit tight. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, let's just have a conversation, because it could be the best time possible for you to do it right now.
Well, and I think our job is to empower people to make decisions with information, right? And I
Yeah.
think that if you seek the information, maybe all of a sudden the fear is something you've created out of your own truth, rather than knowing here are a list of the possibilities, right?
Right.
That could happen, that would allow you to potentially buy the house of your dreams, or your forever house, or your downsize, or whatever it is. And it's no different than the myth in someone's head that, hey, I'm only putting 5% down, I don't have a chance of winning that. Well, the reality is this: maybe someone's putting down 5% because they want to use the rest of their money to fix up the house that they are buying. With money being so cheap right now, why wouldn't you? Right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you're not going to borrow the money to fix it up for as cheap as what your mortgage is going to be right now.
That's right.
So again, it's another truth that we're creating in our own minds, that it's not possible. Well, it's absolutely possible. I talk to people every day sharing those possibilities, and I know you do as well.
That's right. And along with any challenges comes new opportunities.
Absolutely.
So we're in a market where the challenge is that it favors sellers right now.
Yeah.
And so one of the opportunities when you are a seller and you're going to buy is you forget how much leverage you have.
Oh, totally.
And I think this just, if you don't live in that world, you don't always think in those terms, and that's okay. But that's a conversation I have with my sellers all the time. Is they'll say, well, if we ask for a longer closing date, right? Again, that's another way of giving yourself some time to go out and find the next house. If we ask for a longer closing date, or if we ask for a lease back or whatever, don't we risk, losing the buyer? And the reality is, in this market, if you've got the right product, the right home, and you're presenting it the right way, you've got a lot of room to negotiate, a lot of leverage. And I mean, buyers are willing to do much more in today's market to get that home of their dreams than they previously would. So don't be afraid to ask for those things. Obviously, trust your agent to do it in the way that they're going to get the best results. But yeah, gosh, there's so many ways to skin a cat. Hopefully that didn't bother anybody if you're a cat fan. But yeah, but yeah, there's just so many ways to get the job done.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I just think that, again, empowering is knowledge, and talking to a professional who truly understands what's going on in the market. I mean, Googling and reading all this is great, but sometimes at some point you have to discern which is truth, which is opinion, right? And so I believe my job and your job is to provide truth to allow people to make decisions that would be best for them, rather than trying to, because we don't sell anything, really. I mean, you can say, hey, I sell homes, but what you really do is build relationships, and you feed people information to be able to make the right decisions for their family. That's what it really comes down to.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't force anybody to buy a house or sell a house, right? So
right, exactly. That's my point.
That's right. All I can do is assist them, the best way possible through that process. So yeah, don't be afraid. I mean, if you're listening, watching, and you've been kind of thinking, oh man, I've been thinking about doing this, but I don't know if I believe Todd and Chris. They're just, trust me, there's a lot of ways to get it done, and we'll tell you right too. If it's not right for you, I have conversations like that all the time with buyers and sellers, and I'll say, hey, maybe this isn't the right time for you, and that's okay.
It is. It's true.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be honest enough to say no too, and it's still your decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great discussion, Todd. I think hopefully they can empower some of our listeners and viewers out there. If you guys have questions, as always, just get a hold of Todd and I. Our information's right in the show notes. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/Chris Grano. Go to Spotify, all the podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We will see you guys next week on The Update. Thank you, Todd.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.